Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judy Blake, and I am the Leadership and Advocacy Coordinator for Family to Family Network. We are in Houston, Wednesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day for those of you who celebrate. So I do not, but if you do, it's a great holiday and a lot of fun. I want to thank you all for joining us today. For those of you who have been on calls before with me, you know that I like to promote the wonderful work we do at Family to Family Network. So I take a group photo. So if you think you're having a bad hair day, I promise you you're not. But if you don't mind showing your face, we would love to see it. I do post it on social media. So I am letting you know that if you do want to stop your video, I totally understand. Gia, you're looking great. You're having a great hair day. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick picture. So 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So I thank you all for joining us. I'm sure that people will be joining us as we progress in this presentation. Let me go ahead and save this real quick. My apologies. Okay, so a couple of housekeeping notes. If everyone could mute themselves, I would appreciate it. Anna, the one question I have for you is, you're not the lady I thought you were. If you could just unmute yourself real quick. And what is your last name?
Perez, Anna Perez.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. So what we will do is, like I said, this is going to be recorded. And what our presenter is going to do today, her name is Sara Freeman Smith. I had the pleasure of meeting her about 5 years ago. We met at a networking event and we just clicked. She is a self-advocate. She'll share a little bit of her story and then she'll tell you what she does. She is a recruiting advocate for people with disabilities. She is bright, she is caring, and she is dedicated to serving our families. She's going to share with you what she does and how she can help you. And it's really, really important to note, and she'll mention this as well, but it can't be stressed enough, that she works with the Texas Workforce Commission from the standpoint of having a relationship with them. So some of her services can be paid for by TWC. So really, really important to note that. So Sara, thank you so much. And what she's going to do is present for about 40 minutes. I'll give her a 5-minute warning, and then we'll leave about 15-20 minutes for questions and answers. She has handouts for me to send to you that I will do after the presentation. So don't worry if you miss something or anything, because I'll recap it and send it to you in handout form. Sara Freeman Smith, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Judy. And yes, as a matter of fact, as she shared, it was about 5 years ago, and it has been a wonderful relationship. One of my favorite movies is Casablanca. I saw that the other night, and when I met Judy, it was the beginning of a wonderful relationship. So
me too. Thank you.
Connected. She's good people. She always thinks of opportunities that I might benefit either from a learning perspective, or even if perhaps I could participate as a presenter. And I thank her so much for that opportunity. And it's just been great. And if she calls, I will always find a way to adjust my schedule, because I love her to death and love the organization, Family to Families, and all that they do and support. So as she stated, first of all, I work from home, and this is my home office, kind of a loft area. So, during these pandemics, this is my, my new norm, so to speak. I am dressed up from the waist up. So so excited to be able to dress up from the waist up sometimes, because you're going to learn one of my significant disability is I am blind. I am legally blind. And for me, usually when I am on a Zoom call, most of my clients that I work with, they know that I'm blind. So I'm going, hey, you got my avatar because I can't see you. So, until I have to go get some additional help to check you out if you're, dressed appropriately for interviews or something like that. Usually I have the pleasure of just having, my shorts and have a bad hair day every day. But this was a cool event. So I said, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I can dress up today. So I'm very excited about that. But let me tell you, I'm a native Houstonian. I grew up here in Houston, and I was not diagnosed with any type of blind impairments or visual impairments until I probably mid-year of my career when I started losing some of my vision. And unfortunately, it took the doctors probably about 10 years before it ultimately was diagnosed that I had an autoimmune disease, and it was attacking my retina. So I have what is called autoimmune retinopathy. Unfortunately, there are no cures or a positive prognosis, so to speak, for it. Ultimately, the disease could, and as they state, will ultimately destroy my retina. So for me, when I say I'm legally blind, a lot of people say, well, you have glasses, and when you're talking, you're looking at me, and it appears you're giving me eye contact. But, again, if I didn't lose my vision until my midlife, I can listen, and I obviously, turn my head. So just from a learning curve, I always try to explain that, because a lot of people, when they think of blind, they think of total blindness, but there's so many various ways of levels of visual acuity. And for me, in order to be successful and continue in my career, I've always been in the human resources area. I was in both the staffing agency, where I did permanent and temporary placement for about 15 years. Then I transitioned into the corporate world, and I started as a recruiter, and ultimately was in a director of recruiting for Fortune 500 companies. So I have always been the type of person who was out in the community looking to find and attract and bring people into our organization. So when I began to lose my vision, I, being in HR, knew about the accommodations. This was well past, ADA and that sort of thing, but it still was an adjustment. And it also posed a potential barrier for me progressing with my career. And so probably about 10 years after, I began to lose my vision, that's when I suddenly realized, if I am being successful in helping fully able-bodied individuals to find employment, and I knew the challenges of what individuals faced with the disability, just getting my hiring managers to be open and receptive to talking to someone who either had a vision impairment, or had a physical impairment, or even an invisible disability, intellectual developmental disability, or whatever factor. I knew what type of barriers and challenges that I was facing internally. So just imagine it for people on the outside. So that's when I took a step back and had an opportunity to leave corporate America, just do some reorganization and restructuring, and said, I don't want to go back into that side of the arena. I would rather focus on trying to help individuals with disabilities get into a productive role. And so that's when my career took somewhat of a slight curve. And that's when I took some courses, got credentialed, and then partnered with a contractor of Texas Workforce Solutions to go and help individuals with job placement, job coaching, and things of that nature. So for the past 4.5 years, that's what I've been doing. So I work with a company that, a vocational rehab counselor will contact our organization, state that they have a customer that is ready for employment, and can we assist them, and then If I am available, I am assigned that individual, and I work with them anywhere from helping to develop their resume, helping to search for a specific job, also to help them make sure that they are in the right career, mode as far as their skill set, and then help with coaching them on interviewing techniques and doing job search, either helping them to search for a specific job or doing it for them, and then assisting them all the way through the interview process. And then once they land an opportunity, we still assist them to make sure they're happy, that they're advocating for themselves, especially if they need accommodations, if there's any problems, concerns during that 3-month initial benchmark period that we are monitoring them, to make sure that they are successful. And then there's that handoff, but we don't disappear. So even if some of my customers 6 months in have a problem, they can reach out and say, hey, this particular supervisor's been switched. I got someone new. They're giving me hassles. And we try to work with them to hopefully keep them, gainfully employed in their respective role, and understand that there are always going to be challenges. So that's what I've enjoyed so much. But I still do that on a contractual basis. It's not full time. So it gives me an opportunity also to still volunteer in the disability community. I am extremely active in a lot of support organizations, especially obviously that tend to be for the blind and visually impaired, as well as also have been appointed by the mayor of Houston as a commissioner on Houston Commission on Disabilities. And it's an organization that is geared to be the advocate and supporter for all of the Houston citizens with disabilities. We meet monthly, every second Thursday, and that is from 4 to 6 p.m. And as a part of my resources, I do list their contact information, the mayor's office for people with disabilities in Houston that you can reach out to, as well as sync up to their webpage. And it's open to the public, and dial in if you have any kind of concerns or just kind of want to learn what's going on in the disability community. So that's enough about me. So you kind of understand my passion. So I also want to give you a heads up. If you see that if I am looking or pick up my phone, I'm not trying to check a text message, but this is a wonderful assistive technology tool that I'll talk a little bit about in a few minutes. But I use this because I cannot see. My vision acuity is basically, I can only discern fingers that are about 12 inches from my face. So I can't see color. I can't see or discern if it's a particular object unless I am feeling and touching and kind of, know that sort of thing. I can go by shapes and forms. Fortunately, I do use the cane to navigate both externally, but obviously when I'm in my house and I've lived here, I kind of know where things are as long as they don't get moved. So my husband and I are always in constant, battles going, well, you moved it, so I put it here, so now I'm feeling to find it out. So it can be deceptive because it looks like, oh, she picked up that piece of paper and she can read it. But no, I'm going to use some assistive technology tools to help me to do that. So what I want to do today is find out, first of all, how many here on the call are obviously most of you are parents of individuals with a young person that has a disability, but are you the only representative, or also are there the individual who's looking for work, or your child that is wanting to work, or they also on the call? Are you gathering the information to share? So if you could kind of just share that in the chat room, and Judy can kind of give me an idea, because normally if I were to meet with you face to face, I'd kind of have a feel of what the audience, was present, because I'm a real hyper person, so I tend to walk around, and I probably met most of the individuals before I even begin to start talking. So that'll help me to kind of know who my target audience is today, since I can't see you.
And if you want to just private message me, if you don't want to share
either way,
feel free.
So that would help.
Right now we just have we have 2 parent representatives. So they have, children with disabilities. A third, we have one lady who works with the school district.
Oh, okay. Great.
We have someone who has a 33-year-old son with Asperger's, a form of autism.
Okay, right.
We have the sister of a loved one with a disability and a parent with a loved one with a disability.
Okay. Okay. And all of these individuals are ready to at least get into the workforce. So that's the main thing that I want to determine.
And with one lady, I believe, and Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be sort of emerging because you're with the school district. So you work with a number of ages. Yeah.
And
she works at a public high school, and she has 100 students with disabilities on her
disabilities. Okay, great.
Busy lady.
Okay, so some of the resources, obviously, some of you as parents will already be familiar with, but if not, then I did put that information in my handout. But if not, maybe I hope I can share some new resources as well. So most important for me, having a disability and then working with individuals with disabilities is letting each and every individual know that they have value and purpose. I just can't tell you how many times I know I've experienced firsthand where some people go, oh, I just can't do anything, or they live such a coddled or sheltered environment. Well, there's really nothing, and this is all I want to do. But no, everyone has value and everyone has purpose. And to teach each individual to be an advocate for themselves. And it starts, in order to be that advocate, to have that confidence, to have that belief, and not to be discouraged. And even if it is something extremely unusual, or even within our own minds, because I'm a parent, that you just can't visualize or see your child doing that particular job, don't discourage them, because I cannot tell you how many times, even currently in my position, I feel that I want to be as independent as possible. And it's really hard for loved ones to kind of let go. They kind of go, okay, well, Sarah, where are you going? Be careful. Well, I've got a cane, and my cane is going to let me know if a step is coming up. And if I fall, guess what? I can get up. A couple of times I've fallen, but only one time I did break an arm, but it was all because of me, because I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to walk and talk at the same time and knew I couldn't do that. So, but the fact that I wanted to feel independent and know that there's still some things, even with as limited vision, that I still can do. However, I've had to learn to do workarounds. I've had to learn to use certain tools and methods that I would have never, ever fathomed in order to do that. So be an encouragement. And even if you can't visualize or can't even fathom, I believe that there is a way and a workaround, especially if that individual has that true passion, true desire to do something. I don't want us as parents to be a hindrance or discourage. I think about a couple of years ago, there was a young lady that was a singer, and she was in a wheelchair, and her goal was to perform in New York City in theater. Now she's in a wheelchair, and I don't know how many of you have ever visited the theater, but it's a very mobile, fast-paced environment, sets and move and scenes. However, she didn't let that stop her. And not only did she not let it stop her, but not only was she able to get a significant role and perform on Broadway, but she also won a Tony the first time. And how awesome was that, to wheel out there and say, do not give up. Just because you can't see, how are you going to do this on stage? It was possible. There were workarounds. Another young man with a creative mindset who was, I believe he had Down syndrome, wanted to be an actor, and was having some memory problems, obviously. And the parents are going, you got to remember all these things. And how are you going to be? I think that's not a viable career. He didn't give up. And the parents finally just said, okay, this is something you really, really seriously want to do. Well, then you need to invest in it. We'll invest in an acting coach. And guess what? That coach and his determination and his passion led him to get a significant role in the Netflix Academy Emmy award-winning drama Ozarks. Never in his wildest dream. And he was a young man that lives right here in Houston. So it's those types of things that even though we can't see it, if they've got the passion and they've got the vision, I believe that there is a possibility that that is achievable. So encourage them to do that, but they have to advocate for themselves. And more importantly, they have to learn to ask for help. If they cannot do it with whatever the skill sets that they have, they're going to need to ask for help. So one of the things that I find when I work with a lot of my customers is they may have a desire to want to do something, but you also have to say, do I have the proper skills? And is this something that I am capable of doing? Just like the young lady who wanted to sing, first of all, she had to be able to sing. Okay, I tell the story. When I grew up, it was all the popular girl groups in Houston. I mean, back then in my youthful days, and I was determined. My little girl group in my neighborhood were going to be the replacements for the Supremes, and you know who was going to be Diana Ross, right? That was going to be me, right? Well, there was one minor problem. Me could not sing at all. I couldn't sing my way out of a bucket. So that was a problem. And I was determined that I just knew I had everything going. But if I didn't have the skill to sing, nor could I see my parents, because I grew up in the inner city investing in a lot of singing lessons, I still wasn't going to be able to be that type of singer. I had to take a reassessment and say, what are my true skills and what do I really, really love to do? And as it turned out, I love to talk, and I wind up majoring in a form of communications, and then obviously I'm still using that to this day. So I strongly urge you, if you have not taken the time and investment in sitting down with your child or the individual that you're wanting to help find employment, look at the various skills assessment tools that are available on the Work in Texas website. I have to admit that they've got several very good, strong career assessment goals. And go to the site. It lists career assessment tools. It's something where it's self-paced, where you're answering questions. Do you like to talk with people? Are you social? Are you analytical? But it will determine and come out with, a pretty clear picture. This person has a creative slant, and that they may very well be successful in the creative or the arts. They may very well be successful in, service roles or analytical roles or whatever that may be. But they define some specific type roles where sometimes we wouldn't have even ever fathomed or thought that would be something that would be a viable tool or a career for that individual to go to. So it's not something that we in our own mind could envision, oh, you'd make a great, teacher, or you'd make a great, it gives us multiple layers and options. But more importantly, it also will allow you to determine what type of educational or technical learning areas that need to be added in order to achieve that. So you may have that built in, kind of skill set in the fundamental tools to start with, but you need to build upon that. And I truly believe that you're never too old to learn. I mean, I would have never guessed at my age that I was going to have to go back to college and take some online courses to do my credentials in order to do and work with individuals with disabilities. And I had challenges just assessing the website with my screen reader. So again, those are things that you're never too old to go back and to learn and to enhance those tools. So take advantage of those career assessments. So make sure that is something that even if you do have to go back to school, it may be one course at a time. It does not have to be, you got to take 4, courses per semester, because that's the traditional way when I went to school or when you went to school. Each and every person is unique, and let them determine what's best suited for them in order to achieve their success. And it is so important for everyone to have a strong support group, not just within the family, but to expand that support group and that network to not only our family, but mentors, friends at school, friends within the community, church, support organizations, places like Families to Family Network, but being able to ensure that they are surrounded by a positive support group that's always going to encourage them and say, hey, heard you taking this and you're doing really well, keep it up, that sort of thing. Because I can't tell you how many times where individuals will come and say, well, I just didn't know where to turn to. And especially if a parent is working and they're in that hustle bustle, a lot of times that may be something just that simple, strong support network of an organization around them that will help encourage them. It's make sure that every individual, when you have a disability, I'm not going to tell you there won't be barriers. They will expect to see some barriers. There are going to be barriers to employment as to why did it take you so long to get into the workforce, or maybe there was a gap between the time they left school and then decided to go to work. Just the mere fact that you have a disability, it really, really is something that you have to understand. Within our workforce, there are going to be barriers, but you also need to know, how am I going to overcome that barrier? I always say with me, with my visual impairment, I am having conversations with people, talk, and then when they say, meet me at my office for, this, a meeting, and I walk in and I have my cane and I'm poking around and they go, it's obvious it's the elephant in the room. I don't like to call myself, but it's obvious, like, well, how is she gonna work here? And well, that's when it's up to me. I already know that that's something I'm going to have to overcome. So I have to be confident enough in my capabilities and say, I know you're sitting here wondering, if I can't even navigate clearly into an office without the use of a cane, or if I had a guide dog or that sort of thing, how am I going to be effective? How am I going to work on the computer? Well, they have these things called screen readers, and Microsoft thought of this about 20 years ago. I turn on my laptop right now and I turn on what is called narrator. Every place my cursor goes, it will either magnify it if I set that up, but it'll also land and it'll read everything that I highlight or even that I touch. It just depends upon the command. I'm giving it manual commands, but it's reading it to me. And that allows me to simply go and respond back to emails. I read resumes every day. I'm navigating on websites, but it is a screen reader. It's not invasive, but most people aren't even aware of that. That's on Microsoft, but there's also some software that the Workforce Solutions Office can purchase for someone who's visually impaired. If I was hearing impaired, there are video phones and video adaptive tools that I can take into the office that will help me to be successful. And a video phone would have a person that all I have to call in, and they are sign languaging as I am sitting in a meeting, and then I can interpret that way. So I have to know what's available in order for me to go in and be successful. So there are going to be barriers. So I have to anticipate, how am I going to sell myself? And so that comes from having that built-in confidence in knowing that they will be. And especially, you absolutely, I encourage people, if you are not working with your vocational rehabilitation offices across the Houston, Harris County, or if you've been outside of Harris County areas, that you do take advantage of that, because they do have those resources, and they can not only assign you with a company, or you actually can pick the company or the organization to work with. They give you a list, and they can also assist in, now, how can this person help explain? And that's where I coach one-on-one with an individual on how to overcome barriers. So this is not something that you as a parent would have to do. So these are individuals like myself who's out there in the workforce that can help them. But the main thing I find out that is always a very big challenge is knowing that I need to perhaps ask for help in order to be successful on the job. So for me, once I've overcome that barrier and they recognize, okay, she's saying it's assistive tool, well, how much is that going to cost me? And is it going to take time for how's my manager going to work? Well, again, I've already anticipated that, and I've already built in my responses. It is not going to cost you anything, because the state is going to pay for a lot of the assistive tools, even if it's, let's say if I had a physical impairment and I was in a wheelchair, and if it's a small company, well, they have portable ramps. It's amazing. You can't just eliminate, well, I'm a small company, I don't know if I can afford that. Well, let's have a conversation with my vocational rehabilitation counselor. They can put you in touch with accommodation counselors who can come out, sit at the, visit the offices, determine what necessary tools are, and go back and say, these are the things that we can provide for a company. Then that relieves that anxiety. And then they can also provide a coach. I am a coach, and other individuals within my organization that can sit side by side to ensure that that person's successful, who won't take away that time from that person's actual supervisor, that can work with the supervisor, find out what's critical and work with them. But the only way to do that is you've got to be able to ask for help. And if you ask for help, you must be willing to disclose a portion or some facet of your disability. And that's a unique situation. That's up to each individual. I can never, ever tell a customer, you must disclose in order to be successful in the workplace. Even I have some blind individuals that they won't disclose until they actually get the job, unless, you know, they have to go there and they can actually see that they can't see. It's up to that individual. And it really is something in order for the company to allow for that accommodation. In my instance, they give me extra time because my screen reader is going to slow me down, because I'm not just glancing at a quick email like someone who was sighted. It's got to read line by line. So I'm going to have to have a little bit of extra time as well as to respond back. So that's an accommodation that I would obviously ask for. But if I'm still maintaining and meeting my goals, then I'm still successful. So these are things that we want to work with an individual to help encourage and give them that confidence to not only be capable of doing it for themselves, but to assist if necessary, to be alongside with them. And then one of the things is know what accommodations are available for your individual to use. And that's the hard part to navigate. And there's a wonderful resource called JAN Network, and it stands for Job Accommodation Network. It's a national organization, and I cannot tell you how robust and deep and it's a fabulous, fabulous organization and website where you can reach out to professionals and say, if I have a physical impairment or an intellectual developmental disability, what type of accommodations would be available if I wanted to work in the workplace. They will explain it, lay it out, provide links, resources, and all those tools. So you go in armed with that information. So that's a tool, and it's a site that I did provide in my resources. So for me, especially being visually impaired, I use something as simple as a cell phone, but I have to explain to a company, I'm not using this cell phone to, you know, check on social media and respond to text messages, but this is my assistive technology tool. For me right now, I have my Bluetooth in, but I'm going to turn it off. And let's see, hold on. I'm going to let you listen. I use what is called Voiceover.
C from disability to presenter, www.urgems.com, P. SaraAtUrgems.com.
So every place that I touch on my phone using Voiceover, for me, it's reading. It's where you can see it, but I have to touch it. So if I touch, it begins to read. I do a swipe, it'll read everything on that page for me. So I explain that this is a tool, a significant tool. If I had a sheet of paper, my assistive technology, all I have to do is just aim my phone, click. It takes a snapshot and it reads whatever I have, that loose piece of paper. So not only knowing what assistive technology is available, but it is critical that you learn to use it. And that's where the vocational rehabilitation team also can help. Not only do they provide the tool, but they have trainers, because with this screen reader, it's more than just starting to type. I had to learn keyboard shortcuts and navigational, tools. So there's some extra steps involved, and that's not something that I could have taught myself. So I had to utilize, not only did the rehab services purchase the software, but they provided a trainer who came to my house since I was working in a corporate role from a remote perspective, and sat side by side. So these are the kinds of things, learning how to use. So, and then what I want everyone to just focus on, telling an individual, let's concentrate on what you can do versus what you cannot do. And that's what I take every day. I know I can do this part. What I cannot do, I'm not focusing on that, because I know if I don't have a workaround or something that I can't perform brain surgery. I know that. So I didn't perform it before, but I certainly know I can't do it now. So I'm not going to focus on what I cannot do. But I do know that there's still things I can do. And even with the aid of an assistive technology, if I need to just simply understand where something that I dropped on the floor that I can't see, there is an app for it that I can go and click on, and it's called Be My Eyes. All I do is tap on it. There's a volunteer. They say, how can I help you? I take it and I go, I drop something on my tile floor and I can't seem to find it. And they say, okay, walk around. Oh, there it is. And boom, I reach down and I pick it up. So being able to know the things that I can do and go, if I don't know how to do that, guess what? I'm going to have to ask. And that's where the value of participating in support organizations, there's families to families network and reaching out, because if they don't know the answer, trust me, I know Judy and her team will find a way to get you to. So that's some of the things that I just wanted to focus on from an encouragement perspective. But
And
one
Sara,
of the areas.
Sara, it's 12:40, so you've got about 5 more minutes, and then there are a couple of questions in the chat box.
Okay, I'm going to talk. I was perfect timing. I'm getting ready to talk about some resources. I did mention, obviously, the Texas Workforce Solutions. There's offices all across the greater Houston area and even outside of the Houston area. You just Google it and you can find whatever nearest office and schedule if you're not already in that relationship. But I also wanted to tell you about the SEAL program. I'm not sure if some of your children are between the ages of 16 to 22. The SEAL program is called Summer Earn and Learn. Even if they're out of high school, it starts while they're in high school, but even if they're out, it's a 12-week program where they can place an individual on a job. They get paid, but they get real work experience, and they're provided coaches to assist them, to help them perform so they can get the practical work experience. And I believe that that's going to be launched probably either late March or early April, and to check with your TWS counselor regarding the timing and registering for the Summer Earn and Learn. It's called SEAL program. And another wonderful resource that's in my handout for parents with children with disabilities, there is a great organization that's affiliated with the Easter Seals organization. It's called Bridging Apps. And what it is, it's a website with over 3,000 apps and resources for parents with children with every possible disability. And it's apps as well as websites that have been reviewed that talk about how it can aid. It talks the pluses and the minuses, but it is so wonderful that you would not even begin to imagine. It opens up the door and it's free. And they also have about 3 labs around the greater Houston area as well, that if you want to go in and look at some of those tools in order to help your child. Let's say if there is an iPad, but there's some apps on it, you can go in and schedule. This was pre-pandemic, of course, but I think as things begin to open up, being able to schedule some times and appointments at their labs there. I think there are 3 across the city of Houston. So I wanted to make sure that I did mention Bridging Apps, and there is a link in that. So I think then I can start taking questions at this point. Okay.
Sara, thank you, thank you, thank you. One of the many things I really enjoy about hearing your presentation is that you're realistic. And I think that's really important. And, for those of you who don't know my personal situation, I've been a single parent for over 20 years, and I have an adult son with autism and other co-occurring disabilities. And it is challenging to find what I call meaningful employment. My son has worked, and then now with the pandemic, everything's been put on hold. But as soon as he gets vaccinated, come hopefully in May, we will be back out there. And it is so important. I do not believe that anyone in this world should be at home, isolated, on the couch, on the internet, or on their laptop, just playing video games. everyone can do something, but it's up to us as a community, as a society, to make sure that everyone is doing something meaningful.
Right.
And that's one of the many reasons that I just really enjoy having you present. So there were a couple of questions or comments, if you will. One gentleman wrote, his son is employed at Walgreens, go Walgreens, and great for your, oh, Dan, you can go ahead and speak. There you go. So sorry, didn't see that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Judy. And also thank you, Sarah, for the overview. As Judy was trying to say, yeah, our son, he came through Taylor High School. They were phenomenal over there. Gosh, Rhonda Johnstone, the whole group. I mean, they just phenomenal. And there, fortunately, as he was aging out, he had some experience at Walgreens, which was able to transfer over to a job. And he's worked at several throughout these last 12 years.
Oh, great.
But it's gotten to a point where he now is he's just there as a clerk. He wants more. We're trying to get him into another environment where he can have more interaction because he has none with other employees of his age. So we've applied at HEB, we've applied at Kroger, and everybody is running through these third-party screening services, and some are being done over the phone. Well, he has a communication disorder. So there it is, and he can't make it through that part. So, what can we do? What would you recommend to find someone or some organization like that, some retailer, where there's larger interaction and so forth? But traditional, this new COVID screening process, if you can't make it through that, he doesn't get a call back, nothing happens, and he's very, very capable.
Right. Well, in the companies that you have approached, I personally know that we've worked and placed many individuals with a wide variety of disabilities with them. And many of them have a disability advocate, ADA type advocate, that sort of thing. So I would encourage you, if they're not working, especially in instance of your son, that may be something that he could get assigned a job placement company within the Workforce Solutions Office. Your vocational rehab counselor allows you guys to sit down and go through the list of subcontractors, select someone, and then get assigned to an individual that's called an employment specialist. And what that individual could do on behalf of your son is we have what we call a disclosure release form that you give us permission to represent you to an employer. So we would reach out to an HR person or that disability, advocate or coordinator, whomever they are identified within that organization, to say, we have someone who has this type of experience, but here is the challenge. And then they are in a position to say, we can make that accommodation. Unfortunately, with the pandemic and with everybody just mass trying to get bodies into place, to kind of reinvent themselves, they just have not had that capability to do that one-on-one. But I think at this time, that would probably be my best recommendation, is to make that contact in advance. So for an example, with the communication issue, especially being on, a Zoom, they can understand that and they go, okay, well, then if I don't see that eye contact or I see that hesitancy, that's the reason why. But then they look and say, hey, he's got a great track record of working. Then, okay, we can make an accommodation, and perhaps we, instead of doing this, we'll do something else that will give us whatever they're looking for in that, in lieu of that. So that would be my best recommendation, is to try to see if you can either work with, get him assigned a placement, specialist, to say, hey, how can we partner together? So they go in together. Then even I've had some situations where some of my job coaches are even allowed to go into the interview or be present on the Zoom call to coach and work with that individual. And that individual is, the HR person understands that, and they've made that necessary accommodation. Okay.
So just to recap, you're just saying, reach out to the Texas Workforce Solutions and ask for a placement specialist?
Yeah. Get assigned a vocational rehab specialist and or counselor, and say, hey, my son is looking to make, a transition and get more people, roles, and needs some help. in order navigating that, because obviously communication is a significant factor. So being able to coach with him, because again, they can't be with him forever, but to be able to overcome some of those things, but more importantly, be that bridge to get him in the door, possibly
That's
to
what
be
we're finding. Everybody
do
has
that.
all this heavy duty screening going on right now.
Oh, it's
like-
unreal. You're absolutely right. And if you're
Oh, it
not sure, because with any large organization, you have some representatives that are more helpful and some that might be less helpful.
But
Fortunately,
you do
I
have
have a
to-
really good one for my son. And so if you're interested, Dan, please email me and I'm happy to connect you with her.
Right.
I
they
think she's terrific. And then she
Right.
can then work with Sara to help your son get on the right track.
Actually,
Right. Or even Dan, it's just a mere fact when you see the job opening at the local HEB office, let's say, you find one close to the home, find out who that HR, because usually they represent a cluster of stores. There's a district HR person. That's who you really want to talk to, and just simply state, hey, here's the situation. He's
And that's what
applied.
I'm doing. I've always been his advocate for making the
Exactly.
changes.
Yes.
I'm doing it with Kroger's now. I found that and others. So, okay.
Right, right.
Thank you.
But we need to get him in order to be an advocate, because once you disappear out of that picture, he's going to be there. And so he has to be able to be, work with the coach to give him those respective tools to ensure that.
Because I've asked these, even with Kmart, can we use an advocate? Can I be his advocate? No. He's got to do it on his own.
That's where having an agency come in helps.
Yep. Right. And that HR person then will know, okay, this is this third party, and we can do that. And then I'll be honest, there are some organizations that are fantastic with it, but then there may be some other that if they're not, then they're not the one. Then let no. Let's just
absolutely.
Yeah.
All this has been great. It's just he's ready for a change.
Yeah,
absolutely. Is he interested in food service at all?
Yeah, and I was going to tell you, Whataburger is fabulous.
Yeah, Whataburger and Mod Pizza.
Environment he would be comfortable in. That's the whole.
Okay, just checking. But Mod Pizza and Whataburger are really
Mod Pizza.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. My son is graduating from high school and in an ABLE program with social challenges. He has huge dreams to turn Moody Gardens into a big amusement park. He loves animation. So is this also too, Sara, where mom should maybe connect with you, get a Texas Workforce Solutions representative?
Right.
So Anna?
Well, when you say love animation, that tells me he has an extremely good creative mind, maybe graphics, but animation, oh my gosh, from the gaming industry, from the social media, from anything that's visual these days, whether it is electronic or, obviously, still billboards and things of that nature, that's there. But being able to back that up with the educational credentials, not just I'm good in art. So that would be my question. If that has not occurred, that could be something that he can begin to channel and work with his vocational rehab counselor, because they will also pay for those courses. They will pay for one to get a particular certification, because that sounds like he obviously has that talent. He just needs to home in and take some specific courses so that he can show that credential. And what I forgot to, and before I forget it, employment, we as parents tend to think of employment as being paid, you walk in, you 8 to 5. But a wonderful tool that I strongly encourage and work with, especially individuals who have no experience, is to become a volunteer with an organization. That is easy to do because most organizations, both nonprofit, especially because they always lack the manpower to do the things they do to serve their communities. But even some for-profit utilize volunteers. But find a place that they have a passion in order to work. For example, the lady with the son that wants to turn Moody Gardens into an amusement park. Has he ever worked in an amusement park? That could be something, and they do have some volunteers. So it could be someone welcoming guests, taking, tickets or something of that nature. But go to those sites, realizing like at the museum, they use tons of volunteers. tons. And this is a great way to get the experience in order to determine, oh, I am really good at this. And not only can that volunteer job provide that experience, you're just not paid, but it also leads it into an opportunity to get full-time work. I cannot tell you how many people have landed jobs because if you're doing a great job as a volunteer, they go, hey, by the chance, are you looking for work? Yeah, well, we may have a part-time opportunity. So it's always putting you in the mix with people who are in a working environment, who know someone. I always believe in that 7 degrees of separation. So someone knows someone who knows someone. So put yourself in that position. So doing a lot of research, the United Way has a great resource of tons of nonprofit organizations that you can start with. If they would like to work with children, if they like to work with the elderly, just find an organization, pick up the phone, say, hey, do you have any volunteer organizations? I'd like to, and you get to define when you work, how long you work, and, hopefully kind of doing the kind of work that you want to do and see how well you do it. So that's a great way to get some experience too that can lead. And you can put it on your resume as well. Works fantastic. Any other questions?
Did that answer your question, Anna and Dan? And
Yes,
Anna?
this has been awesome because I've been kind of imposing on my son, tell him, well, you get what you get. You just got to get some kind of job.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just too big of a dream, or but he was thinking about like maybe working in a bookstore, but then that's becoming obsolete. So I'm happy that you helped us think of different that there's different things.
Well,
if
he
want
can
work in a
volunteer at the
bookstore,
library.
I was going to say, I was just online the other day, tons of opportunities to work as a volunteer with libraries. And guess what? There's city libraries, there's county libraries, and state libraries. So there's tons of libraries.
Absolutely. And they would love to have you.
Right.
So a couple of people had to jump off because they have other meetings coming up. I have posted in the chat box the survey link. Please take a few moments to complete it. And then in 2 weeks from today, we're having educational advocate Robin Reddy. And she will be talking about our kids in the school system, collaborating with the school, kind of what makes your loved one tick with disabilities. So I have included a and the link to register there. Other questions for Sara?
Judy?
Yes.
I didn't write text box, hi. But I'm interested in hearing more about the SEAL program that she was talking about.
Yeah, the Summer Earn and Learn, absolutely.
Well, if you just contact any local vocational rehab office through Texas Workforce Solutions or Texas Workforce Solutions, either one, and just simply say, can I get some information on registering my individual for Summer Earn and Learn, because they have jobs all over the city, and it's a fantastic way to get experience, and obviously can earn some money as well. So definitely.
And Gia, there are, I'm sure there's going to be some flyers that will be posted. Anna, thank you. I'm so happy you enjoyed the presentation. But Gia, there's going to be some flyers coming out.
Some notifications, but you know what? I take charge. Don't assume that, because I find that the state, since the pandemic, they've had to make some adjustments. So they may not be as prompt, or it may not get disseminated.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. And I'm going to send that to you. Here it is right here. And let me find out what it is for Houston. And I will forward that in when I send out an email, Gia. And if I forget, you know where to find me. But I'll send you the link for the Summer Earn and Learn in Houston.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for sharing your most precious asset, one of your most precious assets, and that's your time. So I thank you so much. And I hope that I've encouraged and inspired you and provided some useful tools so that you can go into a productive, life for your.
Absolutely. And Sarah, I'm going to put your email in the
Okay.
chat box. Can you give it to me real
Yeah.
quick?
It's Sara at yourgymsgroup.com, but it's also in the handout. So it's all in my phone number and everything.
Right
is in it.
now.
But yeah,
Just
it's
because I know they get so inundated. So I've just
Yeah.
put Sarah's email in the chat box, and just know, in my experiences with my son, we've probably gone through 4 or 5 Texas Workforce Commission representatives. One moved away, one left the company, another one we felt just wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
So you can go to whoever you would like.
Absolutely.
So do know that it is really important to make sure that it's a match. Finding a representative is like finding a doctor.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah. And ask the right questions. Yes.
Ask the right questions,
the right
because
questions.
absolutely. The one we have now, her name is Justine. I just love her. I think she's terrific. And, it's really important to be connected, because it is a large organization, and it matters to who your loved one is working with. So, Sarah, thank you. Many thanks to all of you for joining us. Was very, very happy to have you today. And thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Much success to each and every one of them.
Thank you to Christy and Gia and everyone on this webinar. Thank you, John and Teresa and everyone else. We appreciate you joining us. I hope you have a great day. Be on the lookout for that email, and I'll send you the handouts. And then if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to myself or to Sarah. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.